The following is a Comfortably Zoned Radio Network production.
Hi, everybody, and a very pleasant good evening to you wherever you may be. This is Comfortably Zoned Radio, and you're listening to Dodger Baseball. It's time for Dodgers Baseball, a tale of two cities from Brooklyn to Los Angeles. My name is Peter Trunk, and with me, as always, is Ron Rabinovitz and Fred Wallen. Fred, how are you today?
I'm very fine. It's very warm here in Southern California and humidity beyond belief for Los Angeles. So those climate deniers out there, we have screwed the atmosphere, believe me, or the ionosphere. Whatever we've screwed it.
Yeah, we've screwed more than that, Fred. But welcome anyway. Ronnie, how you doing?
I'm doing great. It was almost 100 here today.
Yeah,
but it was beautiful.
It's been in the 90s except for one day here too.
Yeah, it's been beautiful.
Yeah, well, it's summertime, you know. You don't have to shovel summer. Anyway,
right.
You know.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to talk a little bit in the beginning of the show about the Brooklyn Dodgers. I started off, I know Ronnie wants to talk a little bit about Pee Wee Reese.
Yes.
And I just wanted to say that, 100 years ago, Brooklyn was a melting pot of immigrant workers laboring to provide better futures for their newly American kids. The different cultures of these immigrants were united under one force: baseball. Ebbets Field was located in a geographic center, or the heart of Brooklyn, and the grandstand was so close to the field that the fans could talk to the players. They really could, too. They really and truly could. You could hear a guy sneeze. You could hear the third baseman sneeze from the upper deck. We lived next door or on the same block as the Dodger players did. Brooklyn was considered the lesser borough, and, of course, the Brooklyn Dodgers were considered the lesser team, always second to the Yankees, and that team, our bums, were able to unite a multitude of cultures under one roof. The relationship between Brooklyn and its Dodgers was almost obscenely intimate. My personal era, I was very lucky. My wheelhouse, I loved baseball when I was 7, 8, 9, but my wheelhouse, when I really, really started to love baseball, I was 10 and 11. And my wheelhouse were right after the 55 World Series, which all my uncles and everybody celebrated in our apartment. My personal era was a very good era. It was the era of Jackie Robinson, Pee Wee Reese, who we're going to talk about tonight, Duke Snider, or in my family, he was called Duke Schneider, and Roy Campanella, Gil Hodges, Carl Erskine, and they still couldn't win it all. They'd dominate the National League all summer long, only to be ritually beaten in the fall by the hated Yankees in the World Series.
Yeah. Right.
They're epic chokes, and they have a million of them. World Series game blown on a muffed third strike in 1941. An entire season wrecked by Bobby Thompson's shot heard around the world. And, their losses and their pain and the negative things about the Brooklyn Dodgers came to be even more eagerly mythologized than their victories. They only won in 1955, but finally, just once, in October 1955, the gods of baseball dozed off. The cruel laws of the universe momentarily relaxed, and thanks to a cocky young left-hander and a miraculous catch in left field, the Dodgers beat the Yankees, setting off an orgy of multicultural celebration from Greenpoint to Sheepshead Bay. It was great. And then only 2 years later, Brooklyn fell from its short-lived glory. The baseball gods murdered the Dodgers with a poisonous cocktail of post-war affluence, the automobile, television, suburban Long Island, stubborn city planning masterminds, and the greatest villain of them all, the greedy owner, Walter O'Malley. The Dodgers had united multicultural. Even Walter O'Malley ate Southern California's forbidden fruit, and Brooklyn fell into darkness. Yeah, I remember 1960 when they tore Ebbets Field down. I was going to go. My father wouldn't let me go. I was 14 years old. He wouldn't let me go over there. He didn't think it was safe for me to go over, and he was probably right. But I really would have liked to have gone just to see it one last time. But what are you going to do? Those days are gone, and they're gone forever. And before we move out to Los Angeles and the very hot, humid weather in the valley, we'll talk to Ronnie a little bit about a guy named Harold Reese. You want to talk about Pee Wee, Ron?
Sure, I'd love to. Okay, Pee Wee was a great shortstop for the Dodgers. He played for the Dodgers from 1940 to 1958, 18 years. He was inducted into Hall of Fame in 1984. He was named Pee Wee because he was a champion at marbles. And there is a small marble that's called a Pee Wee. So that's how he got the name Pee Wee. And he was too small to play baseball until he was a senior in high school. And that's when he started. He played for the Louisville Colonels. And the owner of the Colonels called him the Little Colonel. So for many, many years, he was always known as the Kentucky Colonel. Now, in 1938, the Boston Red Sox wanted to scout him, and they sent Joe Cronin, who was the manager and regular shortstop for the Red Sox, to scout him. And Cronin deliberately downplayed his talent because he knew he was going to be his replacement. But they did sign him. And July 18th of 1939, he was sent to Brooklyn for $35,000 and four players to be named later. And in 1940, he broke his heel bone, and he only played 84 games. In 1941, he hit .229, led the league in errors, 47 errors.
Wow.
And then, of course, like many other ball players, he missed 3 seasons for the military. In 1947, when Jackie came up to the Dodgers, when he first met Jackie, he told someone that this was the first time he had ever shaken hands with a black man. His father was very progressive in those days, and it left something on him because his father took him out to a tree where a lynching had occurred. And then, of course, we all know about there was a huge petition signed by some of the Dodgers who didn't want to play with Jackie, and Reese refused to sign the petition, and it eventually died. There's a famous story about in Cincinnati where Pee Wee came by and put his arm around Jackie, and there's actually a statue that was erected in November of 2005, depicting that moment at the MCU Park in Brooklyn, and the unveiling was November 1st, 2005. And one of the sports writers said that this was probably baseball's finest hour. In 49, he led the league with 132 runs scored. He was named team captain in 1950. In 54, his best year, he batted 309. And that was the only season where he was above 300. In 1957, he had Charlie Neal replaced him at shortstop most of the time because he was getting up there in years. He played 16 seasons for the Dodgers. He had 2,166 games, 2,170 hits, 8,055 at-bats. Average was 269. He had 129 home runs and 885 RBIs. And his fielding average was 962. After he retired from baseball, he became a play-by-play announcer between 1960 and 1965 on the Saturday game of the week with Dizzy Dean. And then he continued on in 1966 and 68 with Kurt Dowdy in the same role. So he was quite a guy, a great shortstop, and the Kentucky Colonel. He died in 1999. There we go.
There were two controversial things about that you included in your story, if I may.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
The first one was the story about his father in Kentucky taking him out to see the tree where they lynched black people from.
Uh-huh.
There was a certain tree in town or right outside of town that had a branch that was conducive to such things. And the number one story is that Reese's father was a believer in civil rights, and he took young Pee Wee Reese out there, young Harold Reese out there, to show him how horrible and terrible it was that they actually had a designated tree where they would hang black guys from. Mm-hmm. That's story number one. The second story is the direct opposite of that story, and that is that his father was a racist son of a bitch, and he took young Harold out to that tree and said, this is where we hang the uppity N-word. All right? I'm not going to say the word. This is where we hang them from. All right? So take your pick on those stories. I've done research on them a couple of years ago, and I tend to believe the second story, where his father was an out-and-out racist, and he told him that's where they go, and they get their comeuppance from that branch. Hmm. The second controversial thing about your story is the Pee Wee throwing his arm around Jackie's shoulder in Cincinnati to shut up the Cincinnati dugout, who was yelling terrible, terrible things at Robinson. And one of the Cincinnati players is known to have screamed out to Pee Wee and said, "Yo, Reese, you're from Kentucky. How can you play with that N-word?" And Reese went over and put his arm around Jackie's shoulders. And that was supposedly happened in 1947 in Cincinnati. Ralph Branca and others, Rex Barney, in his book, remember it happening in Boston, in Braves Field, when they were playing the Boston Braves, and he remembers it in 1948. Okay? Rachel Robinson, the widow of Jackie, says that it never happened. It never happened in Cincinnati, and it never happened in Boston. It just never happened. Jackie wrote in, I don't know if it was one of his books, he wrote that it happened, and then in another article and or book years later says it didn't happen. So that's a 50-50 proposition right there.
Well, he told me however,
it
happened and in Cincinnati.
All right. There is no argument about the statue. The statue can be Googled. You can find it within a minute on your personal computer. It's a wonderful, beautiful statue. And if memory serves, it's right outside of Cyclones Park in Coney Island, Brooklyn. It stands outside that stadium where the Brooklyn Cyclones play. Anyway.
If you recall, Peter, a few years ago, it was desecrated.
Yes.
Remember somebody?
Yes, I remember.
Yeah, it was terrible. Yeah. But
yeah, well, those are the times we live in. I mean,
right.
stuff like that is happening. Stuff like that is happening more and more now
right.
that this asshole is in the White House. But you know, what can I tell you? It's a sad thing. But
Very sad.
people are becoming people who have kept their mouths shut, by and large, that are racist in this country, now feel like they have carte blanche to come out and start screaming at people in the grocery store, on train station platforms.
Hitting them too. Hitting them.
Of course.
Yeah.
And they
It's
feel
horrible.
emboldened. And they even say most of the time when they go on their horrible, ugly attack, they even mention the president.
Right.
They even mention him and say he's our man, and we could do anything we want now, man. You know, blah blah blah. Go back to where you belong, and you know, it's really sad. But anyway, let's get off of that topic real fast, as fast as we can. And I want to ask Fred a question that no one has ever been able to answer for me in the last 4 or 5 years, and that is the problem out in Los Angeles with the Dodgers not being on television in a lot of parts of California. I don't know how that works. I don't know the cable company, this and that, and the arguments all over the place. I'm sure Fred Wallen can enlighten us and tell us what's the story there, Fred?
5 years ago, the Dodgers sold their television rights to Time Warner, now called Spectrum Time Warner, for $8.3 billion over 25 years. So it's like $350 million a year. Okay. Then Time Warner at the time, now Spectrum Time Warner, tried to sell it to the Dish Network, DirecTV, and all the cable systems, and nobody would say yes, because the price they charged, I think was $5 per subscriber per month, was way, way too high because they overpaid the Dodgers in the first place. So for the last 5 years, including Scully's last year, 2 years ago, basically we get the network games, and this year they're going to put 10 games on our local Channel 5, so we get about a fifth or sixth of the total number of games, where most everybody else around baseball getting every single one. But the Dodgers outmaneuvered, they figured, Time Warner, but in the end, did they really? Because fewer people. My point is, if you can see Mike Trout every night, and you can with the Angels being televised, and you can't see the Dodgers, there's a lot of little kids your age when you started at 5 or 6, and Ralph started at 5 or 6, and Ron started at 5 or 6, and I started at 5 or 6. Okay, we're going to become Angel fans because every single one of those games are on TV. So did the Dodgers win? I don't know. The Guggenheims own them. Maybe they'll sell it in a few years. They really don't care about the future of the club. But it's not just Los Angeles. It's worse than that. It's all of Southern California to all of Southern Nevada. Because in Nevada, all the cable systems, they only have one cable system, which is all Cox. And Cox has not agreed. So you can't get the Dodgers in Laughlin. You can't get the Dodgers in Las Vegas. The casinos can, because I worked out a special deal, I guess. But the people could not get the games from Southern California to Southern Nevada for the last 5 years. Unless, of course, you have a friend, and he tells you, and he comes over, and he puts a Amazon Fire Stick on your TV, and then, of course, you get a few extra games. But legally, most people in LA here to Nevada do not get the Dodgers on television too often.
That's terrible.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
It is so crazy.
But it happened in New York just 4 or 5 years ago. There was a section in New York that one of the cable systems did not pick up the Yes Network, so the Yankees were not televised in that part of New York. It's happened.
I remember that.
It's happened in San Diego. It's happened in other towns too. But this has been 5 years. Never happened for 5 years in those circumstances. And I blame the Dodgers, because I think the Dodgers can go back. It's going to sound crazy. It's not my billions, but okay, so you paid me $8.3 billion. We'll give you back $2 billion. Lower the price to $3 per subscriber, and everybody will say yes. But the Dodgers will never do that because the Guggenheims only care about one thing, which is loot, money, and so we are basically shut out.
That's horrible. I have a question.
Horrible.
I have a question. I have visited, personally, my wife and I have visited Southern California twice in the last 3 years.
Right.
For about 10 days each time, and we stayed in a hotel.
Right.
And the hotel, this is in Studio City.
Right.
Our hotel, every night, I got the Dodger game on the TV in the hotel room every single night. How did I do that?
They have Time Warner.
Uh-huh.
Okay. So if you pay, you get it.
If you have Time Warner, the percentage of people that have Time Warner cable, and there's another small one that also Charter that also did pay the price. So Charter, and if you either have Charter or Time Warner, you can watch it, but that leaves 60% or more of the people out. In my area, I get Time Warner, but I have DirecTV, and I refuse to get both. And I'm not going to drop DirecTV because they have more channels than Time Warner does. Oh, DirecTV, no question, is overpriced. But you have to understand something. If I say that DirecTV is correct in turning down Time Warner, you've got to take that objectively because I think that DirecTV is way overcharging. I mean, I think they have more than everybody else, but they also charge more. But if I'm saying to you, I'm happy in one way that they turned down Time Warner, I'm trying to be fair here because that price is just too high. Because believe it or not, Ron loves the Dodgers and baseball. Peter loves the Dodgers and baseball. I love the Dodgers and baseball. Ralph loves the Dodgers and baseball. But we're a small percentage of the subscribers who have cable or satellite, and they want everybody that subscribes to cable to pay for it. So my point is, or direct anybody that has satellite to pay for it. So let's say maybe 70% don't give a blank about sports at all. Why should they pay an extra $5 per month to watch something that they're not going to watch?
Yeah.
So Time Warner, in my mind, Spectrum is just they're out of their minds. They're overcharging. But let me go back to something that was said originally about Walter O'Malley, who I've never met, but I have met and worked for. When I worked for the station, I did the Dodger Talk, in the late '80s. And Peter O'Malley is a square shooter. He's as honest as they come. And again, Walter did what he did, leaving Brooklyn. Again, I've read a million stories about the parking lot, this and that, whatever the case might be. But Peter O'Malley to me, has been 100% square. A couple of the players tried to get me fired because I tried to speak objectively about if the club wasn't playing well, if somebody wasn't playing well. And when I left KBC, and it was all over $5,000 that I was promised that they wouldn't pay me, so I quit, and that was the worst decision ever made by mankind. But anyway, the point is, Peter O'Malley wrote me a letter saying, you're the first objective pre- or post-game show host that we've had. We loved your work. We're so sorry that you left and this and that. And when I moved, I lost the letter. But the point is, every Christmas he sends me a Christmas card with his family and all this. My point is, Peter and Walter, night and day. Unlike Fred Trump and Donald Trump, one are racist and the other more racist. So,
yeah, right.
Exactly. So my point is, not every father and son are the same. Some are. And so I'm going to stick up here for Peter. I know he wasn't mentioned, but you guys can, say what you want about Walter, because I didn't know Walter. But to me, Peter is one of the big square shooters you can ever find.
Peter was known as a really good guy.
Yeah.
Really good guy.
Does Peter's family own an interest in the San Diego Padres?
Yeah. His nephew, Tom Seidler, and his son, Tom Seidler owns more. I think together they only own 45 or 50%. But yeah, about 4 or 5 years ago they bought into the San Diego Padres. And first thing or the second thing they did was, I thought was correct. If you remember Petco Park, it's almost impossible to hit a home run to right center field. And about 4 years ago, when they bought it, maybe 3 years ago, when they did this, they moved in the right field fence, I think 10 or 15 feet. Still too far. I would move it another 10 feet. But the point is, the O'Malleys and the Seidlers know what they're doing.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I've heard a lot of good things about Peter. I've never met him, but I know that there was a big falling out between Jackie and the Dodgers because of Walter. And Peter, he changed things and invited Jackie to come back. And he was there for an induction of his number being retired with Roy Campanella and Sandy Koufax.
Yeah, there's many, many pictures on the internet depicting that. I used to have a scorecard from that day that I bought off of eBay, which I've since lost. But yeah, I remember that. I remember that. That was sad. It was good. It was great and everything. But Jackie, you could tell Jackie was ill. And
yeah, he was very ill.
He wasn't as ill. He was not as ill as he was at his final World Series. I think it was the Cincinnati Reds.
It was 6 days or 8 days before he died.
Yeah, man, he really he made me cry right out loud when I saw that.
Oh, me too. Me too.
It was horrible.
He flipped the ball to a kid, and it hit the kid in the head. He couldn't see. Yeah, terrible.
But growing up in Los Angeles, there's a Channel 9. Then it was called KHJ-TV, and they would run the same movie every day of the week, every night of the week, and totally different than, a million choices now with satellite or cable. But Channel 9 here ran the Jackie Robinson story with Jackie Robinson, and I forgot who played Rachel in the movie, but a very, very good actor.
Ruby Dee,
right.
Who just recently died.
Yeah, and that's why I'm bringing this up. They ran that movie. I mean, again, you run it every night, so you run it to 7 nights. But I mean, they'd run it every 3 months for 7 straight days. It was unbelievable, and that's when the Dodgers first came here. So it was like Los Angeles, interesting town. And you mentioned Pee Wee before, and of course, by '59, he had been beaten out in the second half of the season at the shortstop position by Maury Wills, who of course went on to 104 stolen bases and all that. But and of course I remember Pee Wee from the Dizzy Dean days, and also Peter, I read again. You said you think the dad part of it was number 2, where he was the racist. That's the way I've read it, and almost everything I've read is that his dad was the racist, and that made it more difficult for Pee Wee actually to act like Jackie's friend, because not only was he losing his friends in Kentucky, he was losing his family because his dad was such a racist. That's the way I've always heard it. I don't know if it's, a reality or not, but I'm just saying that's the way I've always heard the story.
Yeah, I've heard the story that way mostly myself, and that bodes very well for Harold Pee Wee Reese, because that makes him a special man.
Right, exactly.
And that makes him a special man. Well, since we're all the way out in L.A., along with Fred, let's talk about the 2018 Dodgers, if you don't mind. Today, last week we discussed, or the week before, last week was July 4th. The week before we discussed that I had read that the Dodgers and the Milwaukee Brewers were the front runners for the sweepstakes, if we call it that, for Manny Machado as a rental, and maybe even the Dodgers would sign him long term, not just as a rental. And today, 2 weeks later, I read that the Dodgers are still in the thick of it, the talks about Machado, but that the Yankees have come on the scene, and now they're investigating Manny Machado, which would mean, to me anyway, I don't know, what do I know, but it would mean that if they signed Machado, the Yankees, that he would play third base for them because nobody's pushing Didi Gregorius unless he's part of the deal, I don't know, off the shortstop. But it becomes very, very interesting now because whenever the Boston Red Sox are rumored to be doing something, all of a sudden, 24 or 48 hours later, the Yankees are rumored to be doing the same thing, and vice versa. So not only are the Milwaukee Brewers and the Los Angeles Dodgers rumored to be chasing after Machado with their offers, but now it's the Red Sox and the Yankees also chasing after him. And again, the Red Sox have Bogarts at shortstop, who's not going to be moved off, so he would have to play third base there also, and they would have to send the kid Devers down unless they use Devers as part of the deal. But it becomes more and more interesting and intriguing, the Machado sweepstakes do. And I just would like, Fred, if you don't mind, I don't want to put you on the spot, but let's put a general manager's hat on you for the next 5 minutes or so. What the Dodgers general manager? What are your feelings? What do you think? I think I know already before I ask you, but just for the hell of it, what are your feelings about the whole thing, about the trade deadline coming up and Manny Machado as a Los Angeles Dodger?
I don't think there's a chance in 1,000 of him becoming an L.A. Dodger for a couple of reasons. Number one, they'd want to re-sign him to that long term, and they're not going to spend $400 million. That's what he's going to get from somebody over 12 years at $35 million a year. It's $420 million. They're the Dodgers are not going to pay anybody that kind of money. They're already paying Kershaw. That's A. B. Machado's making it quite clear. When he moves, he wants to be the shortstop. So as you indicated, with the Yankees, you got somebody there who's an awfully good shortstop in Gregorius. Here, you've got Corey Seager, who's going to come back next year. He's a shortstop. I honestly, the Yankees will spend the money, but I think they'd be causing themselves grief in the clubhouse. So maybe they'll sign him short term, but in the long term, they got two shortstops, and he's demanded that if he moves, he's playing shortstop. So, no, as far as the Dodgers are concerned, my thought is no, and frankly, I wouldn't want him because I think as talented as he is, if he demands to play shortstop, no, I'm sorry. And with the Dodgers, Turner is not Manny, but Turner is not a bad third baseman. And Taylor can play anywhere, and Hernandez can play anywhere, and you don't have anybody complaining about, I have to play shortstop. You play with position, they got to, okay, so 2 nights ago, they put Puig on the DL, they took up Andrew Tolles from the minors. Okay, get this. Now, Andrew Tolles is a speedster. Andrew Tolles, when he was with the Dodgers 2 years ago before he got injured, was a left fielder. Dave Roberts started him the very first night in center field, moved Bellinger, who was a first baseman and then center fielder, to right field. They had Peterson playing left. My point is, when Peterson first came up, they said he was a really good center fielder. Then the analytics came out and said he really wasn't. Okay, then Bellinger last year they said was a very good center fielder, but Tolles is a better center fielder, and Roberts didn't care about Bellinger's feelings or anything else. He puts Tolles in center field. Now, he hasn't played the last couple of nights because the left-hander has gone to the Padres, but tonight, as we tape this Wednesday, a lefty's going tonight for San Diego. So on Monday is when he first came up. But the point is, yesterday he didn't play, and he's not going to play tonight. But Tolles is a fantastic ball player in that he's got an arm. Bellinger's got an arm, and Peterson's got a pretty good arm. They all have got arms. So my point is, they've got so many. When Puig comes back, and Kemp made the All-Star team. So you got 5, and then Hernandez hasn't played the last couple of nights either. they got so many guys. I don't know how Roberts is playing them. So Machado would just add to the mix. I mean, when you're an athlete, you got an attitude that you're the best, and some way, somehow, Roberts has gotten Kemp to lose 40 pounds, Puig to be a better citizen, although he's crazy on the bases. Okay for Peterson to move to left. Okay for Bellinger to play first, center, or right. Taylor to play short, second, or center. Hernandez to play anywhere. I don't know how that's done, but I don't want to add Machado to the mix.
Yeah.
Very well put. Very well put.
I think you're right. I'd be very surprised if they got him.
Dodgers are also interested, as the story goes, and who knows if this is bullshit or what. No one knows. But it's fun. It's fun to speculate. They're interested in the left-handed relief pitcher for Baltimore, Britton. Now, Britton was untouchable a couple of years ago. Then he ripped his Achilles tendon, and he hasn't really been the same. And I think the Dodgers are interested in him and think they can get him on the cheap. But my personal opinion is the guy from San Diego, Hand, Hand. Yeah. I like him better. What are your feelings on a relief pitcher, Fred?
Well, again,
before the deadline, I'm talking. I'm still in the deadline mode.
Again, you've got Kenley Jansen with the Dodgers. Britton and Brad Hand are ninth inning closers. What would you be causing here is again grief. One of the reasons Morrow left is because not just the money, but he wanted to be the ninth inning guy, and they already have a ninth inning guy in Kenley Jansen. So Brad Hand is I think he's like 28 out of 32 closers and closing, and Jansen's the same percentage, and Britton, of course, was as good as those two a couple years ago. But would these guys be willing to be eighth inning guys? Because believe me, the Dodgers need a seventh and eighth inning guy. But
they sure do.
You got to get into these guys' heads and say, okay, we can't push Jansen off. Would you be okay pitching the eighth inning? You tell me. You guys answer. I don't have an answer for that. I don't know. I know Jansen wouldn't be happy being the eighth inning guy. I don't know Brad Hand, and I don't know Britton. You got to find out if they're willing to be not the star.
Mm-hmm. I think Roberts
could
handle
be touchy. It could be touchy.
Yeah.
It could definitely get a little hairy. But I was thinking maybe Britton and or Hand just for the 2 months, just for August and September.
Okay.
And so you're not asking them to change their career path.
Oh, well, there was an article in the LA paper today about the fact that, or maybe as you said today, about Brad Hand had signed a 3-year, $19 or $20 million contract with San Diego. So my point is that's a very reasonable number, and you'd have control of him for the end of this year and then 2 more years at a very reasonable number for that kind of a reliever. So if you could work that out, fine. And of course, Los Angeles would be the closest place to San Diego. So, if you're going to have to move for 2 months, that's, that you could get home, once in a while a lot easier from LA than if they trade you to, Milwaukee or somewhere. You know what I'm saying? So,
yes.
The point is Brad Hand would make some sense. But if you're the Padres and you're Tom Seidler or, any of the owners, would you want to give him to the Dodgers? Aren't you competitive with the Dodgers? Or wouldn't your fans, if you listen to the talk shows from San Diego, they really don't like Los Angeles. So the point is, because San Diego is always considered, a secondary city versus LA. Would the Padres be making a bad move for the fans if they sent Brad Hand to the Dodgers?
Absolutely. That does enter into the mix. How about a starting pitcher, and then we'll get to Forsythe. I want to talk about Forsythe. How about a starting pitcher? You think we're in need of a starting pitcher, Fred?
Yes, because you never
Definitely.
know. You never know when
I think so too.
blister's going to pop up, or Alex Wood's injury going to pop up, or Ryu's injury, or Maeda's injury. I mean, this is the most, or Kershaw's injury. Yes, definitely. You need a second starter, and I don't know who that is. They're talking Ian Happ from Toronto, and his ERA. He made the All-Star team because somebody had to make it from Toronto, but I think his ERA is close to 4. So I mean, I don't know if he's the answer, but you need a pitcher who can give you 7 innings once in a while.
Yeah, the pitcher from Toronto. The pitcher from Toronto you take with a grain of salt for the ERA. First of all, he's pitching in the American League East where there's no pitchers hitting most of the time, and he's pitching on artificial turf. But point is taken. Point's taken. What do you hear about Cole Hamels? Any whispers out there in the newspapers about Cole Hamels becoming a Dodger?
Well, he's from Southern California, so that would make sense.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, no, that would make sense from that aspect.
That would be great.
Yeah, he'd be a second or third starter in most rotations. I couldn't argue against that one. I mean, that would be, if they can make that, fine. And by the way, today, it's really interesting. Today, in one of the Los Angeles papers, Dodgers are now going to bring back Walker Buehler, and they're going to go to a 6-man rotation. But folks, really not 6 because 6 of them are never healthy at the same time.
Yeah, right.
So you don't know.
That's right. That's so true. So true.
I thought a couple of years ago, maybe it was a year ago, maybe I'm stretching a little bit, making it 2 years ago, a year and a half ago maybe, but I always thought that the Dodgers would be the first team, not that I'm for it, but they would become the first team to go to the 6-man rotation. And the reason for that is very simple, because they have guys on their roster, the Ryus and the Urias and the Buehlers and stuff that have innings limits almost built into their bodies. They're not the big hulking 6'8", 260-pound guys that we saw in the 90s and the early 2000s. These guys are a little bit more delicate, and I always thought the Dodgers would go to a 6-man rotation. I really did. In fact, I personally predicted that to myself while I was walking my dog a long time ago. I said the Dodgers will go to a 6-man rotation. There it is, right there. I put it out. What's going to happen with this Forsythe now? Are we going to have to shoot him? Tell him that the bus leaves an hour after it really leaves, and leave him at the hotel? What are we going to do with him?
Well, do they have a right-handed hitting second baseman? Hernandez, I guess.
Yep.
But I mean, my point is he's not a natural second baseman. Utley hits left-handed. Muncy hits left-handed. And Muncy's not a great fielder. And Utley, of course, is 39, so he doesn't have the range that he had when he came up, of course. So I don't know. I mean, Forsythe right now is not hitting anything, but they definitely could use, a second baseman. There's no question about that. Full time.
The rumors on ESPN 36 hours ago had the Dodgers interested in both Dozier from Minnesota, which is no surprise because they were interested.
They've been interested
a long
for
time
a long
ago.
Time. Right.
Yeah, and Scooter Gennett from Cincinnati, but Scooter Gennett is an anomaly because no one thought he was even he was like a. You know what they say about a 4A player? He's better than AAA, but he's not quite major league. Scooter Gennett was always thought of as a 4A player until this year. And now he's broken out. He's doing all kinds of great stuff everywhere. In the field, at bat, on the bases, in the clubhouse, everything. And the Dodgers have an interest in this kid. I wonder if they could pry him away from Cincinnati.
Yeah, again, he's shown power that a lot of people didn't know that he had. So, but you could also get maybe Jed Lowry from up in Oakland. Although I'll tell you something, the A's, are playing so well that would really destroy the fandom right now. Again, ownership is what it is, but I mean, he's a very talented player. Cincinnati's playing very well. Since they made the managerial change to Riggleman, I mean, they're way over 500. So they're playing well. So I don't know what you do if you're one of those.
So are the Rays, by the way. Tampa Bay Rays are playing well too.
Yeah, I mean, you could make a case that most surprising team in baseball. But the point is, do you trade your guys when they're playing well? I mean, I guess you're trying to get the top market for them, the value, when you are playing well, but you're destroying the attitudes of fans. I mean, right now, if you're in Oakland, you're saying to yourself, hey, we got to really surprise the world. We could be the second wild card or something like that. Or Tampa, you could be the second wild card. Or Seattle, surprising. I mean, so my point is, it's a very delicate situation. Today's the 11th, so we got 20 days until the 31st. It's going to be really interesting to see what goes on in baseball. But I know we got to go pretty soon. But let me just throw this out for you. On Tuesday, I saw Trevor Bauer throw 8 shutout innings for the Indians, and of course, then they gave up 7 runs in the ninth to Cincinnati, and they came back to beat them 7-4. But the point is, that's Tuesday, okay? Do you pitch him on Sunday, or do you not pitch him on Sunday? If you pitch him on Sunday, then he can't play in the All-Star game. So now, what's more valuable, a win or the All-Star game? Now, or is he going to be upset? Or is he going to be upset if you do pitch him on Saturday or Sunday? I guess you pitch him on Saturday on a day short of rest. I guess you can get away with it, but Sunday, you're not you're not going to make you can be taken off the All-Star team. So, guys, what do you think? Trevor Bauer pitch Sunday or not pitch Sunday?
I think he should pitch. And I would be disappointed if he went to Francona and said, I don't want to pitch, I want to appear in the All-Star game. I'd be disappointed in him.
Ronnie, what do you think?
Yeah, I think so, too. I think he should pitch on Saturday. And then
he'd be pitching on a day short. But, But then he could be eligible for then he'd be okay for the All-Star.
Right.
Yeah. Guys. So it's interesting that the All-Star game, which, what does it mean?
Yeah.
It meant a lot to me when I was growing up, and I think to you guys when you became a National League fan.
Roberts was the manager this year.
Yeah, no, but I became the National League had beaten, I forgot the thing, but in the late 50s, the early 60s, the National League won.
They beat them every year.
Whatever it was, 8 out of 9, whatever it was, because they had more black players than the American League. They were, of course, with Robinson and the Giants. You know what I'm saying? The National League had more players first before the American League. The Red Sox, again, until 59, Pumpsie Green never had an African-American player. So a lot of us who were politically oriented, even at a young age, became National League fans, not just because maybe we were Dodger fans, because they did the right thing and opened it up to everybody, black and white alike. But what is the All-Star game?
American League was much slower.
Yeah. But what is it? Does the All-Star game mean anything to you guys now?
No, not to me. I used to watch it religiously back in the day when I was a kid. I haven't watched an All-Star game, and this is not an exaggeration. I have not watched an All-Star game in 25 years. Have not watched it.
Really?
Have never watched the Home Run Derby. Not interested in it at all. Really not interested in it. And getting back to real quick to Trevor Bauer and Tito Francona. Tito Francona is perhaps, if he's not the most player-friendly manager in baseball, he's in the top 3. And I think Tito Francona will figure out a way to use Trevor Bauer to win a game and to let the kid be an all-star also. He'll work something, and he'll sit down, he'll figure it out. Whether he'll let him go 4 innings or 5 innings on Saturday and then let him be eligible for the team or whatever. I don't see Tito Francona taking away the opportunity for Bauer to be an all-star.
Right. It can very well be.
He's a very player-friendly manager. almost to his detriment, I might add. But that's another story.
I see they spent this Ed Paredes. They sent him out for assignment.
Paredes is gone.
Yeah, and they picked up this guy from the Rockies.
Yes.
Zach Roskop or something like that.
Yeah. I saw that on the line today.
Yeah.
I saw that. They claimed him off waivers.
Right. I know it's not a big deal, but
it's not a big deal at all. It's not a big deal, but at least they're doing. They're following what they always do. The Dodgers.
Right.
They study it. They go for it. They do. They have the diminishing returns type of deal, and they're very, very deep all the way through their system. I mean, they got like 80 catchers, 80. You know what I mean? Like they got guys all over the place. They're very good at depth. The Dodgers are. But it will be really, really interesting in the next 2.5 weeks to see what they do at the trade deadline.
Interesting. If anything,
who they really go after, and
you think they would sit still without doing anything?
Will they go through it without doing anything?
Yeah, Fred, do you think
is that your question? No. Fred, what do you think?
My guess is they get a starting pitcher. If you're going to ask me, I don't know Cole. I think is he a free agent? Even if he is, I probably think they'd give Texas a couple of second-line minor leaguers for Cole. 2 months. If they need somebody in that rotation. And again, a closer is going to cause problems with Jansen, and Machado's going to cause trouble with everybody. And let me just throw this out. Once Puig gets healthy, Kemp's an all-star. Let's say Toll, he was hitting like 330 in the minors. Let's say Toll's hitting 300. You got Peterson, Bellinger, leaving somebody out here. But the point I'm trying to make is, you're Dave Hernandez. I don't know what you're going to do. You got too many outfielders. I mean, I guess you can't have too many good outfielders. But my point is, I don't know what you do. I mean, do you carry like 6? I guess because you play different positions, you play other positions, but.
Well, you know what? There's an easy answer to that, and it's a cliche. It's a total cliche. It's a wonderful problem to have.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
right.
Imagine the opposite of that problem. You don't have enough quality guys, and here the Dodgers have too many, according to us anyway. Everything is subjective here. The Dodgers have too many guys that are talented. That's the problem you want, not the opposite problem. You know?
Right. By the way, folks, I remember I mentioned that Bauer had a 4-0 lead going into the 9th, and they took him out, and Cincinnati scored 7 last night to beat the Indians 7-4. Okay.
Yeah.
Tonight, and I play FanDuel, but I just played Brantley and one other Indian. I didn't play all of them. I should have. It's now in the 4th inning. You ready? 17-0 Cleveland over Cincinnati. I doubt Cincinnati will come back in the bottom of the 9th, in the top of the 9th.
17-0. It's a football score.
4th inning.
Wow.
You know, that game is ripe for beanballs and fights.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That's ripe for it. 17-0 in the 4th inning. If one guy does something the wrong way, they're going to get decked, and then the benches are going to clear. There's going to be fights all over the. If one of those clowns tries to steal a base or bunt the guy over or something like that, there's going to be blood. Wow, 17-0. Holy crap!
Speaking of Toll for a second, I hope he gets playing time, a lot of playing time, because I think he's a real spark plug. I think he's terrific.
I agree. And I think he'd be a great leadoff guy because he can steal bases.
Oh, terrific. Yeah, he's fast. He can steal bases.
Yeah. He's very fast. He's got a really good arm. And
look, he was 2 for 3 on the first day back.
What?
So he was 2 for 3 the first day back that he played.
Yeah.
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 And he
had a double. And
running like crazy.
RBI double to the opposite field, too.
Yeah.
But he's not
terrific.
playing him against left-handed pitchers. Okay. So that means you got to play against left-handed pitchers, and you don't play Peterson against left-handed pitchers. And
got to play Kike.
So you play Kiki and Puig and Kemp, or Taylor goes to center and Kiki plays short. But it's a confusing thing. I mean, as you said though, and then it's a valid comment. It's better to have this problem than the opposite.
Yeah, I love it.
I recall though, wasn't Toles a good left-handed? He hit lefties pretty good.
Well, all I know is that he got the 2 hits on Monday. He didn't play against the lefty on Lauer last night against San Diego. And he's not playing, and we're taping the show.
He's not playing tonight, huh? That's too bad.
That might not be Robert's call.
So
that may be Friedman's call, or front office call there.
Yeah.
It smells to me like it's a front office call.
Could be.
I can't see Roberts not letting the kid play after 2 rips his first game back. I don't care if the guy's pitching left-handed or not, because I have a memory not unlike Ronnie Rubinovitz. When Toles was going well, he was hitting left-handers.
Yes, he was. Yeah. I thought so too. That's why I said that.
Yeah.
That he was hitting left-handers, right.
Yes, he was.
So.
Gentlemen, I think we've run the gamut. It's been a lot of fun. I thank you both for participating like you have, and I had a really good time. I hope you did too.
Did too. We all did, I think.
Yeah. Fred, thanks for all the information. I mean, you're right out there. You can hear the Dodgers front office breathe. You're so close. So, and thanks for the explanation on the television stuff, because I never got that straight. And
that was great, yeah.
Yeah, it was good. So I just want to thank both of you gentlemen again for a nice show, and I'll see you next week. Fred Wallen and Ron Rubinovitz. This is Peter Trunk saying good night for Comfortably Zoned Radio. Thank you, gentlemen. Good night.
Good night. Good night.
Bye, guys.